General Hospital spoilers for Thursday, April 10th reveal that Jordan has a bold and dangerous plan. Formed after weeks of quietly investigating the suspicious activities of Drew and Ezra in Port Charles. As the police commissioner, she has been observing not only from a professional standpoint but also noticing an increasing threat to the town she vowed to protect. The story Jordan is uncovering about the dangers Drew and Ezra are bringing is only getting crazier as she discovers they are not just two businessmen collaborating, but a dangerous alliance quietly taking control of Port Charles's strategic assets, from water and power systems to essential healthcare services. Every deal they make, every company they acquire, is a piece of a larger puzzle, one that aims to turn Port Charles into a city entirely under their control, where decisions on everything from public policy to the prices of essential goods must go through them. One of the new pressures building is how Drew and Ezra are using Aurora Media to manipulate public opinion, launching a sophisticated media campaign to make the community believe their activities are for the common good. They have hired a public relations team to build their image as philanthropic and ethical businesspeople, while secretly taking over every aspect of the city's life. With confidential sources and sharp analysis skills, Jordan has started recognizing the pattern and understands that if she doesn't act quickly, Port Charles could fall into the hands of these power manipulators without anyone noticing until it's too late. This is proving to be one of the new shocks Jordan is experiencing as she discovers that Drew is not only Ezra's business partner but also a pawn in a larger scheme. Through confidential sources and secret recordings, she has gathered evidence showing that Ezra is using some kind of drug or psychological method to control Drew, turning him from an ethical businessman into a manipulator willing to do anything to achieve his goals. This revelation is not just shocking because of Drew's truth, but also because it indicates that Ezra may be far more dangerous than anyone thought, someone who manipulates not only assets but also people's minds. This is truly sparking one of the most serious new ideas in Jordan's mind, a bold plan not only to expose Drew and Ezra but also to rescue Drew from Ezra's control. She realizes that simply arresting them won't be enough. If she does that, Drew might become an innocent victim while Ezra could escape justice with his team of lawyers and powerful connections. Instead, Jordan is planning a two-pronged campaign, one to gather enough legal evidence to charge Ezra, and another to find a way to free Drew from his psychological control so he can testify against Ezra. This plan requires not only intelligence and courage but also support from those Jordan can trust, a list that is growing shorter as she realizes Ezra's influence has penetrated every corner of Port Charles. From the city hall to the police department and even the hospital, where medical evidence of Drew's condition could be gathered. As Jordan continues to develop her plan, she knows she's entering a dangerous game where the price of failure could not only be her career but also the future of Port Charles. But as the protector of law and justice, she has no choice but to face this challenge, hoping her plan will not only save Drew but also protect the town from a future under the rule of power manipulators like Ezra. Tracy gives a warning that she will never easily forgive the severity of what she has received, her voice echoing in the ELQ boardroom with a strength that even longtime employees can't ignore. As a true Quartermain and a major shareholder in the family business, Tracy isn't just warning, she's declaring war on anyone who dares to touch the legacy her father, Edward Quartermain, worked so hard to build. The new story of the crazy things Tracy is willing to do has begun to form as she discovers Drew and Ezra have been quietly buying up shares in ELQ through front companies and are planning to complete take over the family business. For Tracy, this isn't just an attack on assets. It's a personal offense, an attempt to erase the legacy of her father and the influence of the Quartermain family in Port Charles. Tracy is ready to go to great lengths to protect ELQ at all costs. She has started gathering information on Drew and Ezra, hiring private detectives to track their every move, and even reviewing the company's financial records to find any signs of financial manipulation. This obsession is not just about protecting the company but also about proving that the Quartermain family remains a force to be reckoned with in Port Charles. Tracy has begun spending most of her time in the office, working late into the night to plan a counterattack, and is even looking to involve other family members in the fight, including Ned and Brooklyn. This is creating one of the new obsessions forming in Tracy's mind as she begins to recall past power struggles she has been through and won. She's comparing Drew and Ezra to past adversaries like Paul Hornsby and Edward, who she had to outsmart many times in the past. This comparison is leading her to apply old strategies that may have worked in another time but might not be suitable for the current situation. Tracy is becoming increasingly reckless, willing to use any means to protect ELQ, even if it harms her own family. This obsession is blinding her to potential allies and could push her into decisions she may regret later. This is showing that Drew and Ezra are also feeling new pressure from a direction they didn't expect. They underestimated Tracy's determination and strength, initially seeing her as an obstacle that could be easily overcome. Now, they're facing an opponent who not only has experience in power struggles but also a vast network of connections and resources she can use against them. Drew, who, despite being manipulated by Ezra, still holds memories of the Quartermain family, is beginning to feel internal conflict as he faces the woman he once considered part of his family. Ezra, on the other hand, is starting to realize that his plan may not go as smoothly as expected and may need to adjust his strategy or even seek new allies to deal with the unexpected threat from Tracy. As this power struggle escalates, Port Charles is witnessing the return of a Tracy Quartermain that many thought had disappeared, a determined, intelligent woman willing to do whatever it takes to protect her family and her legacy. And in the process, she may not only save ELQ but also unintentionally help Jordan in her plan to expose Drew and Ezra, creating an unexpected alliance between these two powerful but very different women. Vaughn holds a meeting to share information with Josslyn, the tense atmosphere of the secret room at WSB headquarters in Port Charles becoming heavy with the serious issues at hand. The dim light from the screen displaying photos and classified information reflects off Josslyn's tense face as she listens to every detail about her new mission. Vaughn, with his usual seriousness, is presenting a new national security threat, a terrorist believed to be operating in Port Charles, hiding under the guise of a successful businessman. With each new piece of information revealed, Josslyn feels the weight of responsibility bearing down on her, but she has no idea that this is just the tip of the iceberg. The new story about the mission Josslyn needs to execute is really starting to explode when Vaughn, with a tone devoid of emotion, finally reveals the real target of the mission. Drew Kane, head of Aurora Media and a member of the Quartermain family. According to WSB Intel, Drew is being controlled by Ezra and is carrying out a plan that could threaten national security. Josslyn, unable to hide her shock at hearing Drew's name, the man she knows not only as a successful businessman but also as her mother's friend and a part of the Port Charles community, feels as though the GRU ND beneath her is collapsing. Vaughn explains that her mission is not to arrest or interrogate Drew but to neutralize him, a term the WSB uses to mean permanently eliminating a threat. This is no longer a typical surveillance or information gathering mission, it's an assassination order. One of the new pressures building is how everything is starting to explode as Josslyn faces the greatest moral conflict of her budding career as a spy. Not only does she have to consider the ethics of killing someone she knows, but she also faces the reality that if she refuses this mission, she may be seen as disloyal to the WSB and face unforeseen consequences. Vaughn emphasizes that this is a mission of national importance and that Josslyn was chosen because she has access to Drew through her family connections. This pressure is pushing Josslyn into a dark corner of her soul, where she must question her core values and whether she can become the person the WSB wants her to be. This is proving to be the new obsession forming in Josslyn's mind, an obsession about the line between right and wrong, between responsibility to the organization and responsibility to her conscience. She begins questioning every piece of information Vaughn has given her, wondering if Drew is truly a threat or if this is part of a larger plan she doesn't know about. This obsession is keeping her awake at night, unable to focus on her daily life, and even unable to look her mother, Carly, in the eye, knowing that Carly's heart would break if she knew her daughter was considering killing a family friend. Josslyn begins gathering private information about Drew, tracking him from a distance, and trying to find evidence of the crime WSB claims he has committed. This is leading to one of the new shifts in how Josslyn views her role at WSB and herself. She begins to realize that being a spy requires not only courage and intelligence but also the ability to make difficult decisions, decisions that could shape not only her life but the lives of those around her. Josslyn begins seeking advice from those she trusts, including Emma, who is going through similar challenges with the WSB. Together, they begin to question the legitimacy of the missions they've been assigned and whether the WSB is truly the organization of justice it claims to be. This is making Josslyn's story evolve profoundly and irreversibly. She is no longer a passionate rookie agent who believes in the WSB's mission. She's becoming someone capable of independent thinking, questioning the orders she receives. Josslyn is shifting from being a tool of the WSB to someone who may confront the very organization she once swore allegiance to. She is starting to see the bigger picture, one where the WSB may not be the hero she once thought, and Brennan may be using her as a pawn in a dangerous power game. As Josslyn continues to ponder her mission and gather information on Drew, she begins to uncover links between Brennan and Ezra, underground connections that suggest the WSB may not be the only party with motives in this story. And as she digs deeper, Josslyn may have to face the hardest decision of her life. Will she follow the WSB's orders and become a killer? Or will she stand up against this powerful organization and possibly become their next target? The answer to this question will not only shape Josslyn's future but could also determine the fate of Drew, Ezra, and even Port Charles. Willow received some advice from Nina about staying away from Drew, and the conversation took place in the quiet space of the coffee shop, where the two women sat facing each other with complex emotions. Their mother-daughter relationship was still new and filled with unhealed wounds. But Nina could not remain silent when she saw her daughter getting more involved with a man she believed was changing in a dangerous direction. Nina shared her observations about Drew, how he was becoming more decisive, secretive, and, especially, how he was increasingly influenced by Ezra. She spoke to Willow about rumors in the business world, how Drew was slowly abandoning the moral principles he once valued, and how Aurora Media was being used as a tool to manipulate public opinion. Nina's advice did not come from jealousy or a desire to control Willow's life, but from a genuine concern that Drew might pull Willow into a dangerous situation. One of the new characteristics emerging in their dynamic was Willow's reaction to Nina's advice. Instead of rejecting or dismissing it as she usually did, Willow listened attentively and openly, which she rarely did with her biological mother. This wasn't because she completely trusted Nina's judgment about Drew, but because she had also started noticing changes in his behavior, how he was becoming distant from Michael, how he was spending more time on work, and, particularly, how he spoke about Ezra with almost blind admiration. Willow shared her concerns with Nina, creating a rare moment of understanding between the two women who often disagreed. This change not only affected how Willow viewed Drew but also started to change how she saw Nina, not as an enemy or a threat, but as someone who could offer valuable perspectives from her life experience. This shift in perspective was also part of Nina's adjustment in how she approached her relationship with Willow. Instead of trying to impose her opinions or assert her role as a mother explicitly, Nina was learning to be a mentor, a friend, and a source of emotional support that Willow could turn to when needed. She no longer demanded recognition or the right to be a mother but focused on building trust and respect, foundations of any healthy relationship. This adjustment came from Nina's realization that the only way to truly be a part of Willow's life was through patience, sincerity, and respecting her space. Nina no longer expected Willow to call her mom or show affection publicly but simply hoped that one day, Willow would see the value in their relationship. This was also causing a change in Willow, one in how she viewed family and relationships. After all the challenges she had faced, from discovering her true identity to battling cancer and now worrying about Drew, Willow was starting to recognize the value of having many people to support her in life. She was slowly opening up to the idea that family wasn't just made up of people she chose, but could also include those fate had brought into her life, like Nina. This adjustment wasn't about surrendering or abandoning her principles but about maturity and a deeper understanding of the complexity of human relationships. One of the crazy things that was truly exploding in Nina and Willow's relationship was when they began to realize that, despite their tumultuous and painful past, they had more in common than they thought. Both were strong, independent women who put family first. Both had experienced significant losses and struggled to find themselves again. And most importantly, both loved Wiley with all their hearts. This awareness was creating a new foundation for their relationship, one not based on expectations or obligations, but on mutual understanding and respect. The crazy part wasn't that they were getting closer, but how naturally and unexpectedly their relationship was developing, overcoming barriers they once thought were insurmountable. As Willow left the conversation with Nina, carrying the advice to be cautious with Drew, she was not just considering her relationship with the man she was gradually developing feelings for, but also reflecting on the relationship with the mother she had once rejected. And while poor Charles continued to spiral into new conspiracies and alliances, the evolving relationship between Nina and Willow might become a rare point of hope and healing in a town often defined by conflict and division. Natalia had something to confess to Sonny, her eyes full of worry and guilt as she looked at the man with whom she had a complicated history. In the private space of Sonny's office at the coffee shop, Natalia finally found the courage to reveal the truth she had kept hidden all this time, the story that she was, in fact, Sidwell's wife. This confession was truly making everything explode, creating an earthquake in Sonny's world and those around him. As the words poured out of Natalia's mouth, Sonny felt as if the floor beneath him was collapsing. Their relationship, which had already been complicated with memories of the past and their shared child, was now even more entangled with the appearance of Sidwell, the newest and most dangerous enemy Sonny had in Port Charles. Sonny realized that every interaction between him and Natalia recently might have been monitored by Sidwell and used against him. He started to question all the information Natalia had shared, every intimate moment they had shared, and whether all of it was part of Sidwell's larger plan. Natalia, seeing the doubt and pain in Sonny's eyes, hurried to explain that her marriage to Sidwell was one of convenience and power, not love. She recounted how Sidwell had approached her after she and Sonny had broken up, how he had used his wealth and influence to help her during difficult times, and how their marriage had slowly become a gilded cage from which she could not escape. Natalia insisted that returning to Port Charles wasn't part of Sidwell's plan but her effort to reclaim a part of herself she had lost in the unhappy marriage. However, Natalia also admitted that when Sidwell found out she had contacted Sonny, he began to use her as an informant, threatening to take away everything she cared about if she didn't cooperate. She had been forced to share some information about Sonny, but she emphasized that she had tried to protect the most important secrets and only shared things Sidwell could easily learn through other sources. With tears rolling down her cheeks, Natalia confessed that she had come today not only to confess the truth but also to warn Sonny about Sidwell's upcoming plans, a plan that could endanger not only Sonny's career but also his life. This revelation was making Sonny realize the new dangers ahead. He understood that Sidwell wasn't just a typical business rival. He was an enemy capable of using anything, emotions and personal relationships included, to achieve his goals. Sonny began to reconsider all his recent decisions, worried that Sidwell might have insider information about his business and personal life through Natalia. He was also concerned about the safety of his loved ones, especially the child he shared with Natalia, who could now become a pawn in this power game. Sonny, with the survival instincts honed over years of facing threats, began to formulate a plan. He realized he needed to be more cautious in every move while finding ways to protect his loved ones from any potential retaliation from Sidwell. Yet, amidst all the worry and calculation, Sonny also felt a deep pain, the pain of betrayal from someone he had once trusted and loved deeply. Sonny could not help but see the irony in this situation. He, a man who had spent his life building an empire based on control and information, was now a victim of that very game. He had trusted his ability to judge people, had been too confident in his ability to see through schemes and betrayals. And now, he was facing the reality that Natalia, whom he had allowed back into his life, might have been a Trojan horse, bringing destruction into his fortress. Natalia, sensing Sonny's anger and pain, tried to explain that she never intended to harm him. She insisted that despite being Sidwell's wife, her heart had always belonged to Sonny. She shared how she had struggled with her conscience every time Sidwell had asked her for information, and how she had tried to protect Sonny without arousing Sidwell's suspicion. Natalia confessed that she had been living in constant fear, afraid Sidwell would discover she was hiding information. Afraid Sonny would find out the truth about her marriage, and especially afraid their child would become an innocent victim in this power struggle. Natalia's confession revealed another shocking truth. Sidwell knew that Sonny was the biological father of the child Natalia had born. This was something Natalia had tried to keep secret. But Sidwell, with his resources and intelligence, had found out. And now, he was using this information as leverage to control both Natalia and put pressure on Sonny. Natalia feared Sidwell might use the child as a pawn in his power game, which was the main reason she decided to tell Sonny the truth. Sonny, though still hurt and angry, began to realize that Natalia was also a victim in Sidwell's scheme. He understood that she had faced impossible choices and had done what she thought was best given her circumstances. However, he could not fully trust her, at least not until he could verify the information she had provided and assess the real threat from Sidwell. When Natalia finished her confession, the room fell into a heavy silence. Both Sonny and Natalia knew that from this moment on, everything would change. Their relationship, the future of Port Charles, and the ongoing power struggle, all were now in a precarious state. And while Sonny began to plan his next move, he couldn't help but wonder if this was the beginning of a war he might not win. Sonny decided that before making any decisions, he needed to verify the information Natalia had provided. He asked her to share every detail of Sidwell's plan, every piece of information she had given him, and any evidence she might have about their relationship. Sonny also asked Natalia to keep her distance from both him and Sidwell for the time being, at least until he could fully assess the situation. Natalia, with tears in her eyes, agreed to Sonny's terms. She understood that this might be her last chance to prove her loyalty and affection to him. Before leaving, she warned Sonny once again about the danger Sidwell posed, a man who would not give up easily and had no moral boundaries when it came to achieving his goals. As the door closed behind Natalia, Sonny stood alone in his office, facing one of the biggest challenges of his career. He realized that the battle with Sidwell was no longer just about business or territory, it had become personal. With his loved ones now under threat. And while he had always been confident in his ability to protect his family and empire, this time he couldn't shake the deep fear that Sidwell might be too far ahead, and that this battle could require sacrifices Sonny was unwilling to make. With renewed determination, Sonny began contacting his most trusted allies, Jason, Brick, and even Diane, to prepare for the coming fight. He knew that to defeat Sidwell, he needed to think beyond his usual strategies and be ready for anything. And as the storm began to brew over Port Charles, Sonny Corinthos was preparing for one of the hardest battles of his life, a battle not only to protect his empire but to protect his family.